Hello, hello, and welcome to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, helping you strengthen and condition your mindset. Remember that I always tell you that your mindset is like a muscle, so we got to work at it. We got to strengthen and condition the power of the mind. And in fact, when you think about your mind, it's like the world's fastest, most powerful supercomputer. So the possibilities that we have are certainly limitless. And today we're going to talk about time hack. I know you want more time. I know everybody is so busy these days. You know, you're multitasking, you're juggling all kinds of things, and we're going to help you to whittle it down to being more productive, getting time back. So let's think about it. What are you going to do with all that extra time that you have? Well, this is exciting because my guest today has written a book called Time Hack. So she's got lots of great tips and techniques for you to really start taking control and charge of your life. And we're going to help you get out of ordinary. You know, my guest is Shari Jo Watkins. She is a multiple time author. She is also a speaker and founder of Elite Pro Coaching. So this is exciting. So let's say hello. We're going to jump in the conversation. Shari Jo, it is a pleasure to have you here on the Mindset Mentor.
Hey, Jenny, how are you?
So good, my friend. So good. You know, I think it's so interesting because people are constantly juggling. And
Oh,
we
yeah.
all say we wish we had more time. But if we really start to look at it, we actually have a lot of time that we are wasting in our day. And if we just start
Mhm.
to prioritize things, we can get a lot of time back.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And when it comes to mindset, which is truly, what this is all about. First of all, I love what you said. Like I tell people all the time, our brains are like they can't function independently. They're just like all they do is keep the data and reiterate back to you what you give it, right?
Yes.
And so if you're constantly, thinking that you don't have enough time, that there's not enough time to do this and there's not enough time to do that, then, everything that's inside your head is going to reinforce that. And you're going to keep on those same patterns. So we all know that, keep doing what we're doing and we're not going to have anything different. So yeah, I mean, time hack is a phenomenal tool that obviously, we get really good at doing what we do because we needed it to, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely, right? You know, and so many people are just stuck on that hamster wheel, right? Constantly
Right.
spinning and just going crazy. And I think it's time. We've all, I think, gone through this collective trauma together. The pandemic, and we're ready for change. We're ready to really
Right.
start focusing on what truly matters, what values we want. So let's talk about some suggestions. First of all, can you help us kind of shine a light on what our biggest time wasters are?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a slew of them, and in Time Hack, we focus on 30 of them, right? And so there's a book and there's a workbook that goes along with it, and videos and all that kind of typical stuff that you would find. But the precursor in that is recognizing that what you change in your personal life affects your business life. It affects today, tomorrow. It affects everything and all of them have an impact. But before we can recognize where we are wasting our time, we have to realize that why behind it, right? Why it
Mm.
matters to us, and then how it's affecting us. Because until it really matters to you, you're not going to be able to work through those pieces that says, oh well, that's not me. Oh well, that's not me, but I have an exception. Oh but, right?
Yeah.
So, and what that does, being out of time, it really and truly leads to, these terrible things called, worry, stress, anxiety, overwhelm.
Hmm.
And, the statistics right now are that most individuals that are of working age, they spend about 100 hours every single month in a state of worry, anxiety, and overwhelm.
Mm.
Okay. And all that really does is take up your time and your energy, and it becomes this big giant snowball that just picks up everything in its path. Right.
Yeah, and the thing is that we tend to focus on, all these problems, or we're worrying on things that, may mostly never even happen. And so that's
Right.
a true time waster because it didn't even exist, but it's almost like we've created a problem for ourselves, right? The,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
mind has started to create that. The mind's going to search for a problem if you think there's problems.
Right. Right. Exactly. It'll do, like I tell people, my husband and I have these horrible arguments in the morning sometimes, but I win them all because I'm in the shower all by myself and he's not even awake yet. Right. And I'm having both sides of the argument. By the time he wakes up, like I'm mad and I've already won the argument. And, but
Yeah.
we do that. And those are things that just propel that negative energy.
Hmm.
And I think one of the most powerful pieces to get started with when you're looking at where does your time go? Like I can tell you numbers, how many seconds, how many minutes, but you have to be able to place a personal and monetary value upon your time. Okay. If you're a business person that thinks I don't have enough time to do the things I want in life because I'm stuck doing the things that I have to do, right? That's a narrative change, right? That's
Hmm.
a get to versus a have to. But when you begin to look at your time based on what is that value and what are you allowing to be stolen from you, and do the math, right? Numbers don't lie, statistics don't lie. Okay.
Yeah, it's where we're putting
So,
our energy sometimes in the wrong places. So if something, I mean, if you can hire people, if you can ask for help and you can get somebody to do the jobs that you don't want to do, but that can immensely help you, I think that's great. I think, Sherry Joe, some of the problem is that we get really fixed and locked into control,
oh, we do.
having to do it all, right?
Right, right, right. I mean, that is a really big one. So, like, one of the things is, being afraid to make decisions on your own or needing too many opinions. And second guessing yourself more than anything. I have a little baby that's trying to get on screen with me right now.
Oh, some start. Come on in. Come on in.
It's a kitten. It's a cat.
Oh, the cats are more than welcome. Come on in. I love fur
Yeah.
babies.
so
Mhm.
so let's take distractions. Like
Mhm.
this is a basic one that I use as it is mind blowing. Okay, it physically takes the brain 20 minutes. I mean, actually, like 23 minutes. Hold on, I gotta get her.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I love it.
Oh,
Oh, look at
there
that.
she is.
Oh, she's a beauty. She's a
Yes,
beauty. All the
she
pet
is.
lovers out there can relate. And listen, I'm not going to block anyone from standing in the spotlight and shining their radiant light. Absolutely. Fur baby or human babies.
Oh,
And humans, I love it.
yeah, this little fur baby is all about a photo shoot anytime, all the time. Yeah, she really is. So
Yeah.
distractions, right? That was one, right? So it
Hmm.
physically takes your brain 20 minutes, like actually 21 minutes to recover from a distraction. Okay.
Hmm.
So when you look at if you allow yourself to get distracted 1 hour a day, or to be a distraction, if you're, a manager of people, 1 hour a day during your working hours, right? You multiply that over 5 days and then over 52 weeks. At the end of the year, you will have literally wasted 40.4 days of time
Wow.
by one distraction a week, right? So what we do is we
Wow.
break that down and like, why are you allowing yourself to be distracted? Are you not time blocking? Are
Hmm.
you not clearing your space? Are you not, like in the business world, we want to be available all the time for our team. We want to be present, and you can do that, right? But what happens is if you're not protecting yourself from those distractions, then you can't get what you need to get done, and it spills over into your home life. And if it doesn't get that done there, because you're doing other things, and it spills back into your business life, and it again becomes a cycle.
Hmm.
So like, looking at those kinds of distractions, like, was it necessary? Was it even mine to be involved in? Was there a way that I could have avoided it, or was it necessary? And when you break those things down and really track it, right? The hardest thing people have to do is to track where their time is going and being honest with themselves about it.
Yes, that's a big one. That's a big one. And I think if we all really start to, dissect our day, we will find those
Right.
wasters or those distractions. I remember working with a client and, it was super successful, multi-million dollar empire, really, really successful. And I was coaching her. And while I was coaching her, her staff kept interrupting, constantly coming and coming and coming. So I didn't say anything for the first session. And then by the second session, I was like, all right, we need to put some structure in here. So it was really interesting because she had no idea. And the questions were ridiculous, not ridiculous. Let me just, I'll restate that more. They were questions that the staff could easily have figured out, but she made herself overly accessible constantly.
Right.
But part of it was that she needed to control everything and everyone, right? So she had a hard time letting go. So we worked on that, and we actually had to physically move her office somewhere else. And, we set up a structure that, hey, when the door is closed, you do not come in.
Right. Right. I
Right?
mean, and then, and even beyond that, right? When you're a leader, right, you also have the responsibility to be a coach for those that
Mm-hmm.
are around you. So it's not just shutting my door and don't bother me when my door's shut, but it's also helping your team learn at the same time how they can do the same things for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because those people, when they get overwhelmed, overworked, over frustrated, but they think they're overworked because they don't have enough time, that carries into their home lives and then back in, and that's where that perpetuation of turnover, because you have that restless, irritable, discontent piece. So when
Mm-hmm.
you're learning how to do this on your own, like making yourself, allowing yourself to be vulnerable is huge, and being able to say, here's the thing, guys, like, I love you and I want to be available for you all the time, but just as I want your life to matter to you and I want your productivity to matter to you, I need to make sure that I do the things that I need to do as well, so that at the end of the day, we can all have the lives that we want.
That's
Right.
beautifully said. I love that. It's respecting everyone, but it's also, giving them permission to stay focused, on their
Right.
priorities as well. You can schedule a time to meet with your staff and check in, with each other and see who needs help. What do you need help with? And maybe you're not the person to help them, but you know the right person who can,
Right.
right? I think that's
Right.
that's really key as well. So we're going to take a short break here on the Mindset Mentor. We're going to be back. We're continuing the conversation with my special guest today, Shari Jo Watkins. She is a speaker, an author, and the founder of Elite Pro Coaching. And she's helping us with some great time hacks, getting time back. We always want to have more time. Well, it's just a matter
Yeah.
of looking, what's going on and creating the time. It's right
Yes.
there for you. So stay with us, and we'll be back here on Sauga 960. Happy Thursday, and welcome back to the Mindset Mentor. I'm your host, Tania Kolar, helping you live your best life. You know what? Listen, you were meant to live an extraordinary life. You
Yes.
are. That's right, you are. And we're going to help you to, start to get some of the time back, those time wasters in our day that sort of, take over our lives, and we kind of don't even know that we're wasting a lot of time, or sometimes we do, and we do it anyway.
Right.
Well, my special guest today is Shari Jo Watkins. We're going to just pick up the conversation where we left off. Shari is an elite pro coach. That's her business, Elite Pro Coaching. She's also a speaker, an award-winning speaker, an author of 2 books. Her book that we're talking about today is called Time Hack, and some really great tips and techniques. Shari Jo, we were talking about some of the time wasters, and trying to maybe not take on as much, find some structure in our day, not get absorbed with other people's responsibilities, right? So what are some other specific time wasters and examples that you can give us with some of the clients that you've been working with, and how you
Oh,
help them get their time back?
yeah, sure. So the first thing that I always have people do, and the first comment on this is, is, well, that's taking too much time, right? Have them sit down and do a time tracker for, like, 3 days, like every 10 minutes, we're going to write down what we did for that 10 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Was it yours? Was it necessary? Was it an interruption? Was it, emergency? Did you have to put out a fire again? Right. All those kinds of things. And so there we can really take a look and say what was happening when we lost focus. Okay. Some of the other basic pieces that go into this are, they're really cool because they're not just business related, they're life related. Right. And, and if we learned anything through the pandemic at all, it's that, there's not as much of a separation from who we were then, what I mean, or who we are at home and who we are at work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people want it that way. People want to be comfortable in all environments, knowing that they don't have to, like, turn it on and turn it off, right? And just be.
Yeah.
And but so what happens when we let ourselves get bogged down and running on that hamster wheel, right? Because time hack is literally that first step to escaping the hamster wheel. And when you look at your life, right, you look at a couple of things. Let's just say what we say yes to.
Mm.
Okay. There's a lot of people believe in the total power of yes, right? And there is great power in saying yes to things that matter to you, But if you're saying yes to everything and you're not saying no to the things that aren't helping you, right? And that's a big topic right there in itself, right? But those things are going to be wasting your time. Like, for example, I love to get involved in my community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But listen, I mean, I'm sure I'm not alone. And it was like, hey, Shari Jo, can you help do blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then like 20 minutes later, I'm like, oh, why did I do that again to myself? Right. And I don't really want to do it. Right. Or I know that I'm gonna have to squeeze it in and rearrange things, right? So now I have the time driving there. I have the time wasted, but I'm over obsessing about how I don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I have the time coming back from there, and then the time being involved. And chances are, whatever I committed to do, I'm not fully engaged, or I know I'm too busy, right? So being able to say no in a classy way is quite powerful. Like I would, very simply say, you know what, I'm so honored that you asked me to join you there, but I can't. And here's
Mm-hmm.
why, right? It would be so much better for you to have somebody that has more time to dedicate. I wouldn't be able to serve you the way that I would want to.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it,
Yeah.
right? It's not, saying no and, I don't want to be involved. It's no, I just can't be involved at this time, right?
Right,
And maybe
right.
there's somebody better. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And then, when you think about going places that you don't want to go, or that you don't have to go, right? How much time are we thinking about what do we need to rearrange? What if we have to get there? What time to get there? And then when you're paying attention to what you're doing that you don't really want to do, that adds great power back, because now you get the choice as to whether or not you are a victim of your own life or you're a volunteer in other people's lives. Because I fully believe you only get to be a victim once, right?
Yeah.
Once you know, you're now a volunteer, right? If you let yourself keep doing it, you're volunteering, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have this thing called focus on the pre-play instead of the replay, right?
Mm.
And we spend the second biggest time waster is replaying conversations in our head, and the shoulda, woulda, coulda. Well, I wish I would have done this, or if only I had said that. Okay. Well, all of that is just like dumping a bag of feathers on your neighbor's porch and then deciding an hour later you want to go get them all. Can't. It's out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Too
The
late.
the shoulda, woulda, coulda is don't really matter, right? So instead of focusing on how you could have done it different, right? Yeah, look at it, make a decision, understand what happened, and then move on.
Move on.
Because right, you've got to move on, and then the next time you get to focus on the pre-play, okay? How am I going to make sure that I have a plan to exit should I need to get out of there? How am I, what questions do I need to have answers to before I have this conversation? Where is the opposition going to come so that I don't go down a rabbit hole that I don't need to, right? And thinking about all those pieces in advance so that when you have those conversations, you're more prepared, whether it's in a personal life or in a professional
Mm-hmm.
life.
Well, it's really, directing, the thoughts to the positive outcomes versus the, oh, I
Right.
should have, could have, would have, to, what can I do to make it better the next time, right? So it's being proactive, and not getting stuck in the negative thinking. We can all be our own worst critics, and we can
Right.
analyze our day, to death, and, it really doesn't serve us. So, finding an outlet to serve you, from the situation is really going to be empowering. And I think that, you talked about, certainly, saying yes to everything. People get overwhelmed, and, they fear rejection. They don't want to say no. And listen, I say that too, because I mean, I was that person, in my 20s, I said yes to everything, because I didn't want to disappoint anyone. It's like, oh, I can't say no.
Right.
I can't hurt someone's feelings. And if I say no, oh my gosh, that means that, that I don't care, or anything. It's all these stories and the meanings that we come up with. And actually being able to say no was such an empowering thing.
Oh my
And
God, it's freedom.
the freedom, yes. And I remember the first time I was terrified. I was terrified. Like my body was literally shaking, and it was over the phone. And it was the funniest thing. And then I just felt this incredible relief. It was like the weight of the world lifted off of my shoulders. And there's such a power in beauty, and, really focusing on the things that you truly want in your life, and not getting weighed down. And also, I think that, well, the pandemic is probably, also highlighted a little bit of this. It's like, who do you want to spend time with, right?
Oh,
And
yes.
focus on that.
And that's the next one that I was going to go into. Literally,
Mm.
like, when you say not going and doing things you don't want to do, okay? There comes a point in time when you have to evaluate your relationships and who are
Mm.
you spending time with, right? Because, if it's a constant drain, right? If it's a constant giving and no reciprocation, there's a way to ease yourself out without saying, I'm not having anything to do with you anymore, right? I mean,
Mm.
there's gentle ways to refocus yourself. And if you're somebody that's changing your mindset so that you can change your life, so that you can take action that you need to with the mindset, make no bones about it. Your circle needs to change,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And whether you want it to or not, your circle is going to change,
Yeah, that's a
right?
tough one for a lot of people, myself
Oh my God.
included. I've experienced that as well. And, it's tough because you want to hang on to those friendships. And it doesn't mean
Right.
that you don't love those people. It's just that it just no longer fits, right?
Right. I used to laugh when I was younger and I would hear, well, if you're the smartest person in your circle, it's time to get a new circle. And everybody is always like, but I like being the smartest. But when you when you reach a point that you can't grow anymore, you're gonna have your own plateau and your own stagnation. And the next thing you know, it's gonna be like 10 years later, and you're like, seriously, I'm still doing the same thing. So, and I think you're right, it is the hardest thing. Like for me, I was like the healthcare guru, right? And being the
Mm-hmm.
healthcare guru was not about healthcare, it was about the people for me, right? And I reached a point where I could no longer make the impact on people that I worked with and worked with me or for me or together
Mm-hmm.
that I needed to do. And that's why I stepped out on my own when I did it. What was so traumatic that I fell for it, right? I did it. I laid there for a little while in my own misery. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't get it. Like everybody loved me, and all these people that I thought were going to be here to support me, they weren't,
Yep.
right? They
Mm-hmm.
weren't at all, like at all,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for a while I was like, okay, well, even Jesus wasn't welcome in his own hometown, and then you start to realize where your own limiting beliefs are, right? And until we tackle those limiting beliefs, which time management is one, okay, huge one, until we begin to tackle those limiting beliefs and really, create empowering statements and learn how to shed them over and over again, because it's not a one and done. Until we're willing to do that, you're going to keep having those feelings, right? So like I was like, oh well, as long as I live here, I don't never be able to. This valley doesn't, blah blah blah, whatever. And that was all lies that I was telling myself
Mm-hmm.
so that I could feel better. But the reality of it is that my dream was my dream. It wasn't placed inside anyone else. It was placed inside me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's not their responsibility. Right? It's my responsibility to learn how to be resilient enough and manage my own mindset and my own distractions and all those things that go into making sure that I'm taking steps forward. And I'll be happy to have you come on the journey, but I can't keep pulling you. Right.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
where it changes.
Well, that's interesting too, because, I think that there are a lot of people that when start to, stray from the pack, let's say, they don't like it. People don't like
Mm-mm.
change and they want to bring you back. So they hold on tight and they don't, want to see you succeed in that moment. And it's not that they really don't want to see you succeed, ultimately, it's just in that moment, right? They just want things to just stay the same. And we start to be influenced by their opinion. And as you say, it's not their dream. So it's your dream. And so people don't have to agree with it. They don't have to understand it. They don't have to be on board with it. It's your
Right.
dream. And it's you owe it to yourself to strive to move forward and and to not stay in that comfort zone, because here's the thing, nothing truly extraordinary ever happens in a comfort zone. It
I
just doesn't.
know. Right. I tell
Yeah.
people all the time, I'm like, the comfort zone is where you were supposed to stay. They would have called it the awesome zone, but
Yeah.
they didn't,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's so funny. But I think it's important that, we start to really, take a look, and be courageous enough to make that
Right.
decision that, you know what, this no longer serves me. The
Right.
friendships, the relationships, the job, whatever that is, be willing to look for something else that, lights that and ignites that fire and that passion
Right.
inside
Right.
you.
Right. To the point that you're willing to make yourself a priority. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So often I talk to people like, well, oh, I just don't have time to do that for myself. Okay, but if your child had a doctor's appointment, you'd make it no matter what. If you had a
Mm-hmm.
doctor's appointment, you'd make it no matter what. If your boss said, I need you to do this, you'd make it no matter what. So, when are you going to decide and be
Mm-hmm.
okay with the fact that you are a priority to your own life? Because I mean, at the end of the day, right? You can hit a bus tomorrow, your position is going to be filled in 30 days. Okay.
Exactly.
I
It's so
mean,
true.
not that we
Yeah.
want anyone to get hit by a bus,
Mm-hmm.
however, right? And we're so worried about what other people will think
Mm-hmm.
when we start caring for ourselves. And the news flash on that is this: when like the third biggest time waster is worrying what other people think, right? And caring what other people think. The true reality of it is that people don't really think about us that often at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's true.
Like I used to be so worried. When I walked into a room or out of a room, like, what were they saying? Did I look stupid? Did I say something funny?
Mm-hmm.
Did I offend someone? Did I talk too fast? Because I do want to get excited. Did I use my hands too much? And finally I had to be like, okay, well, here's the thing. Like, I am who I am, right? And I like who I am. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember one time somebody said, "You really never changed." I'm like, no, because I finally decided I don't really want to. Right?
Yeah.
I don't really want to change. And again, that goes back to limiting beliefs. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the things that I talk about a lot is overcoming the tragedy of becoming average accidentally on purpose. Okay.
I love it. Yeah.
Like we become average accidentally
Mm.
on purpose. And for me, it was clear back in like kindergarten, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in I learned to read at a very early age. I was very bright. I was like my brother was reading when he was 5. I was reading when I was 3 because he learned it. I learned it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I was always very bright, but I had so much energy, like energy that you know me with now. That's always been, like caffeine, no caffeine, it doesn't matter. I've always had a joy for talking. I've always loved to learn, and I've always believed that you shouldn't know something and not tell someone else,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that's the importance of it. But clear as early as kindergarten, right? There were kids, the good kids got to go outside and play, and the bad kids had to sit and be read to. And I was the bad kid that also knew how to read, so I had to
Mm.
read to the bad kids, right? And then I would come home with straight A's. And like one time I had 27 checks for behavior. Well, it wasn't bad, but I had triple checks and cannot sit still, works ahead of the class, distracts other children, talks too much, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I learned that it wasn't okay to be different. It
Oh.
wasn't okay to
Mm-hmm.
be, out of the ordinary. And so I carried that into my teen years and into work situations. And then I realized that I didn't stay anywhere very long. And I thought it was a character defect, but it wasn't. It was things that were placed inside me to help me be amazing. I just didn't know how to embrace them yet. And so I had to
Mm.
shed all of that and recognize that those fears are only in here, right? And when people say, "Oh, it's just all in your mind," no, it really is all in your mind, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
because when you find out how to break through them and you're willing to step into it, right? The only way to get through the forest is if you take that first step into it, and you can't get onto the other side until you're willing to take those steps.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I absolutely love that. And it's so interesting how our limiting beliefs start at such a young age and they can really dictate our entire lives. And so I think it's really key for people to start recognizing some of those limiting beliefs. And so obviously you had recognized yours throughout the process of, having different jobs and just through life experience. Do you have any techniques for the listeners and the viewers to, start to identify limiting beliefs?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I like to, it's a very simple exercise, right? Anything in your mind that starts with, I can't, I won't, they don't, they won't, it doesn't, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then the because, right? Like, I'll never be successful here in my hometown because they think differently than I do. okay, really? Like, or I'll never be able to have that kind of success because they were born with money or they had connections. Okay. So it's that first part is that justification, right? That thing that you believe. And then anything after the but is the actual limiting belief. Okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so, so whenever you catch yourself justifying your thoughts, chances are there's a limiting belief there, right?
Yes, yes.
Or justifying why, for me, right? Or why, whatever, me. Okay. And so then you break those down. So the way to break through a limiting belief is actually to, hey, we have to assess it. Is it even true? Right. Like, yeah, they called me motor mouth when I was a kid. Right? They called me whatever, I was little Litten, I was this, I was that, right? Okay, like I mean, I was voted the second ugliest girl in the whole fourth grade,
Oh, that's
right?
terrible.
But little boys, little girls, they do what they do, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I carried that, right?
yeah.
Well, so I thought all this time there was something wrong with the way I looked. Okay, so like, could I really be the second ugliest person on earth? Probably not. So, okay, that's really not true, right? So
Exactly.
then we walk through a list of things like I'll
Mm-hmm.
ask people like, are you intelligent? Yes. Okay. Are you this? Yes. Are you this? And you write those things down because once you begin to build that list of who you are, that I
Mm-hmm.
am, that we
Mm-hmm.
know is true, those things are going to prove those other pieces wrong. Okay.
Yes, you can
So once we
shatter those.
know that it's not true, then we can create an opposite empowering statement that literally is how you rewire your brain. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, our brains are like they're not the boss of us. We're the boss of them, right? But all they can do is retort information and pull up information that we've given it. So if it only has those negative things to pull from, right, then that's all it can pull from, right? So if I wake up in the morning and I'm in a bad mood or XYZ happens, my husband might say something and I'll be like, no. I mean, like what I want to say is my back hurts. I didn't sleep well, But instead, I'll be like, you know what? I am intelligent. I am wise. I am caring. I am kind. I am empathetic, hilarious most of the time. I am this. I am, and by the time I get through that, then I remember who I am. Right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I tell people, talk to yourself, like say the right stuff. Right. Like I'd be like, no, brain, you don't get to lie to me today.
Exactly.
You don't
That's
get to lie
right.
to me today. I know who I am. Right.
I love that. Yeah. So good. And I think so many people listening right now can absolutely relate to that. It's that mind chatter, the negative mind chatter, that we keep telling ourselves. And we need to start, inputting empowering statements, and questioning and challenging some of the beliefs that we have. In fact, you want to, really start to, remember that, a lot of those beliefs are absolutely not true. So you want to
Mm-mm.
question everything that you think about yourself. And I can relate to your story, about some of the beliefs that you had, Shari Jo. One of my strongest limiting beliefs was that I was just a stupid kid. I believe that since the age of 4 years old, from a situation that I had, and I write about this, in my book, Breaking the Stupid Mold, pun intended. And the
Right.
thing, right? And the thing is that I carried that belief, oh my gosh, for
Oh
decades,
yeah.
so strong, and it didn't matter, how intelligent people said I was, how well I did. I always believed that I was just a stupid kid. And then again, I had to question that as well. Well, is that true? Absolutely not. There's all these beliefs that we carry that change the course of our lives. And this is your
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to really start to course correct, to challenge, those beliefs that you have, because anybody listening right now, anybody listening and anybody watching and who will watch this, down the road is an extraordinary being. You have so many beautiful gifts and
Oh yeah.
talents, right? And
Yeah.
you got to recognize that. So we have to take a short break, but we're going to come back and we're going to continue to help you recognize your inherent greatness. Stay with us.
Oh
We'll be
yes.
back here on Sauga 960. Welcome back to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, helping you live your best life. And that's exactly what we're doing, having a great conversation with Shari Jo Watkins, who's helping us to live our best life. We're talking about some really great time hacks. So Shari Jo has written a great book called Time Hack. You can have a look at that. She'll share where you can find the book and what are some of those incredible tips and techniques that we can start to, prioritize our day and start creating the life that we want, a life that is designed by us, not by someone else.
Right, right. And that right there is key, right? when you're looking at how are you going to eliminate your own time wasters so that you gain your life back, right? It's really all in here, and it's all about action. Okay. Everything that we do, whether it is, whether it's mindset, whether it's, anything that we do in order to have results, it has to have action with it. So I would say, mindset plus action equals success. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can know what the distractions are. We can know what the time wasters are. But if we haven't taken the energy or the time to break it down and see why we need it, like, why are we stuck with it? Like, why do I need this to keep happening in my life? Because obviously we feel like it can't be changed, or we would have. Okay. And sometimes we have to look at the how and the why. Okay. So I'll give you another example, and that's social media. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We live on social media, but it's like a death magnet to time. Okay. And it's funny how we take action and we don't even realize it's happening. So when I really started to break down social media engagement and where that is a time sucker, because whether it's at home or it's at work, it happens, right? Um, and we break down how much time we're spending on that time is magnanimous. So like the number that I gave you for distractions is even less than what social media does to us right now.
Mm.
So if we, let's say, I'll tell you a story first. Okay, as we do it. So on my birthday, I was super duper excited, because I had like a bazillion people that took the time individually without prompting at all from all these platforms to tell me happy birthday, right? So I'm not so foolish to actually believe that, right? Hey, don't forget to say happy birthday. Hey, don't forget. And tap, 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 they all did. And occasionally there was one or two that had like this personalized, thing that went along with it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not foolish enough, nor is anyone, to believe that every single person remember me. But for some reason, as humans, we think we have to respond to everybody individually. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you fall into that trap and you start, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And you don't want it to all sound the same. So you like different stuff. Well, then next thing you know, let's do LinkedIn, for example. And this is where this example happened. Here pops up the blue button, see notifications you missed. So I tap on the see notifications, and then I'm looking down, and I see this thing when I read that. And then the next thing below it, there's 6 minutes and 33 seconds later, I found myself watching a guy make a life-size chocolate elephant. Why? All right. So so
Oh,
you
funny.
you do that on
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 different platforms,
Yeah.
3 or 4 times a day,
Mm-hmm.
right? You've now taken that wasted time over the course of a year up to like 86 days. Okay. And at 10 years, you will have wasted almost 3 years of your life.
And you
Okay.
wouldn't have even had a chocolate elephant to eat either.
No, it wouldn't even have been delicious. Like, where's mine?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So it's not just about saying, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm deleting my social media. Okay. But that's not really how you break things like that. Right. What, because there's a need inherently inside of us that causes us to want to know that people liked what we said, that, how many
Mm.
people saw it, how many people viewed it, where are my statistics? Do I need to respond? Right. And so we get stuck in that trap, and then we find ourselves in the scroll, scroll, scroll mode. So what we do is, like, what we have to break down why. Like, why do I find it necessary to go see what everybody had to say about me? Right?
Yeah.
Like, why do I need that
Yeah.
validation?
Mm.
What is missing in here? Right? Is my opinion not strong enough that I have to have your validation?
Mm.
Right? Or, am I worried that I've offended somebody? Well, if that's the case, and that's why you're looking through the comments, and then that's a lesson to change up how you're communicating, right? And so we have to look at the why behind what causes us to do this, right? Why do I need to do this? Why is it important to me? Is it helping me get anywhere? Or is it just contributing to random gossip? Like,
Yeah.
do I really need to know what people thought about the video with the little girl because she saw a snake? Like,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah. There's so many of those examples throughout the day. And, I think a lot of people go to social media just simply through habit alone. So it's
Right.
not the need to look sometimes, it's just or to just look at the comments. It necessarily, it's even just the physical habit of picking up the phone, that becomes very addictive, that can also
Right.
cause some of that, to perpetuate.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And then another one that I get a lot on is, not it's procrastination, right?
Oh, yeah.
Procrastination boils down to like three things, right? I don't want to, I don't know how to, I don't think I should have to. Okay. Right. And
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, and while I don't think I should have to and I don't want to are similar, right?
Hmm.
There's different ways to look at this, right? So, perhaps if you're in leadership, right, there's a different way to handle it than if you're not in leadership, but it still all works out the same way. So like, I don't want to. Okay, well, great, you don't want to. Is it a necessary function or is it a process that's outdated? Right?
Hmm.
Do you not want to do it because you're not good at it? Right? Does it frustrate you because you hate it? Right? Is it not your forte? And then at that point, then you have the ability to take action, right?
Hmm.
Because now your actions are talk to somebody, create a new way, get better at delegating, not
Hmm.
having to have control over all of those pieces, which is letting go of control. The I don't know how to, well, that's a pretty simple fix, unless you've let pride get in the way and you think, I can figure this out on my own. Well, why? Like, I tell people all the time, like, why would you try to reinvent the wheel? And the answers are here with somebody who already knows,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And then the other one is, I don't think I should have to, right? Which is generally from when you have to report up to someone, right?
Yeah.
On that, I don't think I should have to. That's not a good enough reason, right? So why is it that you don't think you should have to? And it's okay to not think that way, but bring me an alternate solution, right? Create a solution that allows that to be taken off your plate. Because not only is it going to take you longer, right? And there's ways to justify this, right? I freaking hate to do this. It stresses me out. But John is very good at these types of things. How about if I take this piece and he takes this over? Right.
Yeah.
Um,
That's really great. And I think that a lot of people, have those limiting beliefs that if they ask for help, then they feel weak and they're not good
mm,
enough. The I'm unworthy, I don't deserve, I'm unlovable, all of these things that can pile up. So really identifying some of our limiting beliefs can be key in moving forward and actually,
right.
helping with the procrastination. And if you think about procrastination, we've all been there at some point. So think about the last time you procrastinated. So in that moment, it felt really good not doing, what you were trying to avoid doing, right? It's a quick reward,
Just a
but
little
then
moment.
just a little moment, but then boy, does it ever prolong
Uh,
and it drags on and it becomes a huge problem. And, you just should have did it in the first place. If you did it
right.
initially when you didn't want to do it and you did it, it would have been much less painful than prolonging it and thinking about it over and over and over again, and then having all of the feelings and the physiology and the body that go along with that.
Right, right. So, the other biggie is multitasking and organization. Okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, it blows my mind because listen, all these things I know the answers because I did them too, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, me
Like I
too.
used to think I
Mm-hmm,
could do a billion things at once, right?
mm-hmm,
And the truth of it is that that once I started time blocking and literally blocking time for specific things and not even trying to do multiple things at once,
mm-hmm.
right? And I didn't realize how much time I gained back because having that, not being able to focus solely on what I'm doing, looking up, looking over, wherever it took me, those that time was wasted immensely, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, multitasking can be a good thing if you're doing it effectively for yourself. Like I never go anywhere empty handed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this was when my very first job, well, my second job as a waitress at Bob Evans, right? And, so you didn't go anywhere empty handed, right? You either had a tray or a coffee cup. I mean, a coffee
Mm-hmm.
pot.
Mm-hmm.
If you had a tray in your hand, you better be picking stuff up along the way to take it where it needs to go. But if you're walking empty handed out, you take a coffee pot, right? So I do the same things anywhere that I'm going, right? I take a look around. Okay, well, this needs to go over here. So I'll take it on my way,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I plan out my day. so that when I go over here, I can stop and stop and stop rather than making a trip to the post office, making a trip to the bank. It's, all out on my way. So that's the only kind of multitasking that I recommend. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The disorganization piece is one of the hardest for people to overcome because we clean off our desks and then we talk ourselves into now I can't find anything. Okay. I
Yeah.
cleaned my desk, put everything away. Now I can't find anything. And I think people say, okay, well, I'm going to get right back to this tomorrow. So I'll just leave it here. Okay. It never really works that way. And what the brain says is, oh my God, there's so much stuff here. Right. And it magnifies what you're trying to work on to something bigger than it is. Right.
Yeah, sometimes we just get so overwhelmed by that pile that we want to multitask. We have great intentions to start something, but then we get overwhelmed and we don't get anything accomplished.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and all of those pieces are, they're things that they're easily fixed and easily changed, but it's never a one and done.
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
mm-hmm,
There's some things that you're going to have to keep coming back to, right?
mm-hmm.
Like for example, almost all of them. Okay. Like when you learn to ride a bicycle, right? Did you ride it perfectly the first time or did you fall down once or twice?
Oh yeah, we've all
Mm,
fallen off that baby.
right. But you got back up on it, right? For those individuals that have children, right? And when they were of that toddler age, right? Don't touch the stove. Don't touch the stove. Don't touch the stove. So how many times are you willing to say don't touch the stove? As many times as it takes
Mm-hmm,
because
mm-hmm,
you care about them, right? When you learn to care about yourself in the same manner, right? Then you'll be offended at the things that are wasting your time in a nonsensical man. You'll
yeah.
be like, no,
Yeah,
no,
you're not going to settle for that average anymore.
right?
Absolutely. And unfortunately, we're out of time. So, Sherry Joe, can you tell the listeners and the viewers where they can find your book and where they can get more information about you?
Absolutely. So you can search Shari Jo Watkins anywhere
Mm-hmm.
and I'll pop up. And for as far as the book goes, all of my stuff is on Amazon. Of course, you can get it from my website as well,
Mm-hmm.
which is sharijowatkins.com or coachingpro.com. They kind of interlink with Elite Pro Coaching as well, which is the business coaching side of it. So yeah, just hunt for me. I'm like the news channels. I'm everywhere.
I love that. Well, we certainly need to get some of that time hack basics down so that we can really start to foster a life that feels good to us. So I want to thank you so much
Yeah.
for joining me here on the Mindset Mentor and for the work that you're doing. And
Thank you.
it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Tanya. You are the best. I appreciate it.
Aw, thank you, my dear. All right, everyone. So make sure that you condition and strengthen your mindset. Remember that you are meant for extraordinary. So just reach out and grab it. And by the way, start taking a look at your day and make sure that you don't have those time suckers taking away that energy. All right. So cultivate a life that you truly love.